Many people for years have wondered what the key is to feeling more human and alive. I believe the key is making strong bonds with people around you that you care about. We see this concept in many great books, including Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, Lord of the Flies by William Golding, and finally All Quiet on the Western Front by Eric Marie Remarque. The first book I'm talking about is Catcher in the Rye. In this book, we see the main character, Holden, lost between being a man and a child. The most important part of this book is his relationship with his brother and sister. His brother died at a very young age, and this is what changes his life. Throughout the book, Holden doesn't connect with others the same. He makes up fake personalities and tries to find relationships with others, like his ex-girlfriend, Sunny the hooker, and the old ladies at the club. We see specifically when he's talking to Sunny, he's not interested that Sunny's a hooker, but he just wants to have some sort of personal interaction, talking for a while. At the end of the book, Holden is thinking about moving to Canada, but before he leaves, he goes to talk to his sister. It's at this time his sister finally stops him from moving to Canada and convinces him to stay. This is important because we see that Holden finally has a connection with someone, and doing so protects him from making a bad mistake in his life. In conclusion, Holden was alienated from society, and his sister is what finally brings him back. The next book I'll be talking about is Lord of the Flies. In this book, we see a group of boys with no adults or leaders are stranded on an island. We see the hunters of the groups lose themselves as they become more animal-like with no connections to anything but killing. The boys are alienated from the more normal and sane kids on the island like Piggy and Ralph. The kids that keep their order and have goals don't treat each other like strangers and more like neighbors and friends. We see this to be important because later in the book, the hunters have gone completely insane and are basically animals at this point. The importance of this book is not the bonds that we see, but the absence of bonds. We see that no one is true friends with each other, and with this, we see that they are all strangers. The last book that I will talk about is All Quiet on the Western Front. In this story, a group of pretty young guys go to fight for the Germans in World War I. The guys are treated like animals. Waves of Germans are sent to the front lines and were killed very quickly. The main character, Collin, and Kat have a very important bond. A specific scene is when Kat and Paul have just killed the goose and are eating it alone. Paul states that he feels closer to Kat than ever before, and in this scene is when Paul and Kat look the most alive and well, because they are normally waiting for death. Another scene that is very important is the scene of Paul's death. At this point, all of his friends have died, and Kat was recently killed. And with no one left, he was ready to die. In conclusion, Paul was ready to die because he had no one left that he cared about. In the end, the way to feel more alive and human is by creating bonds and relationships with the people around you. We saw this in books like Lord of the Flies, Catcher in the Rye, and All Quiet on the Western Front.